Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Elaine Ecklund, and I'm the author of Why Science and Faith Need Each Other, 8 Shared Values That Move Us Beyond Fear with Brazos Press. I am so grateful to be joined today by Dr. Katharine Hayhoe, who's a climate scientist. She's also an endowed professor in public policy and public law at Texas Tech University, where she directs the Climate Center. Katharine has some questions about the virtue of shalom.
I do. And I'm delighted to be able to talk with Elaine about this because we are both scientists. I'm a physical scientist, she's a social scientist, and both of us have been drawn to what we specifically do because of our faith. But here's the irony. The irony is that so often science and faith is perceived to be in conflict. And I don't know about you, Elaine, but I'm asked about this frequently, about doesn't my science conflict with my faith? So I feel like the concept of shalom or peace is especially resonant when it comes to science and faith. So I wanted to ask you, first of all, how do you see shalom as a shared value between science and faith?
I'll say that first, for me, shalom started in my own Christian understanding, in my own church background. And I've been really influenced by Jewish thinkers and the idea of tikkun olam, the idea of seeking wholeness for the world. And I remember a Christian mentor said to me once that seeking peace and wholeness for the world doesn't mean denying its messiness and its dirtiness, that we can't pretend shalom into being. And some of the scientists that I've interviewed over the past 15 years that I've been studying scientists' attitudes towards religion have brought up very similar concepts, that they see their scientific work. And some of these scientists, as you say, are practicing Christians and they get this from a Christian understanding. Some of them are not, but they do come together around seeing their work often as bringing an understanding of what's wrong in the world. Certainly, we see that in climate change research. Certainly, we see that in environmental care. We see that in understandings of social inequality through a social science lens. And so through acknowledging that messiness and that really the Christians understand it as sin that's in the world, that's very systemic, and then doing scientific work that will lead us towards peace, towards a sense of wholeness, towards a sense of shalom, is really where these two communities, I think, can start to come together around a common virtue or value.
I love that. That is so true. Well, so then here's the question. Because there's so often this perception of conflict between the scientific and faith communities, what can be done to foster a sense of shalom?
I think stories are really helpful. So as scientists and social scientists, we see ourselves as very primarily interested in the numbers, right? We want to go deep into the numbers, deep into the details, and then help people understand the importance of those details for larger problems and issues that are facing our world. But I think stories are so incredibly important. And one piece of my work as a social scientist is really listening to other people's stories and trying to figure out how individual stories map on to the narratives and stories of a whole group of people. And if we had more scientists in our churches talking about how they're really using their work to bring a sense of shalom into the world, or understand the path to shalom. We know that it will never be fully realized in this earthly sense, but we are working towards something that's greater, something that's a wholeness. I think those stories are just so incredibly important. And I'd like to hear scientists talk within church communities, but I'd also like to hear scientists talk about their faith in the scientific community and how their faith can motivate them to work to something greater, to work to that greater, towards that greater wholeness in the world. Katharine, thank you so much for joining me today. It's really, really great to be with you. It's a privilege. Thank you.